Hi, this is Chris again with Nightfall Audiobooks, and welcome to your Halloween novel. This is The Babysitter II by R.L. Stine. It is a point horror novel. I have not read this series before. This will be completely new to me. I liked the first book enough. I thought it was really, really well done. We're going to see what this second book holds, and we will go from there. I don't have any aspersions or guesses or anything that, what's going to happen. This series is 4 books long. I'm hoping that over the course of these novels, we do see the main character, Jenny, move from high school into college, because she should be at least growing, and getting herself an education and things through this. Kind of like how the Silent Night series, in the 3rd novel, Reva Dalby was rich enough to go off to Smith College, but her cousin Pam Dalby had to stay home and work because she was too poor. But at least we got out of Shadyside High and we went somewhere else. I'm hoping the same holds true for this. So, let's get started. What should I do next? I don't know. Write me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I love getting your emails. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know how the show is going, what direction I should move in. Give me recommendations, what I should be doing next. I'm also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks, so feel free to tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever it is that you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. Thank you very much for listening, and let's begin. Welcome to a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The Babysitter II by R.L. Stine, a point horror novel, Book 6. Chapter 1. I killed him, Jenny said, shifting uncomfortably on the couch. I can still hear his scream, so loud at first and then fading to nothing. No matter how I try to look at what happened, I just can't get it out of my mind that I killed him. She twisted a strand of her dark hair as she talked. Her eyes, so round and black, stared at the cracks in the wall beside her. She licked her lips, a nervous habit she just couldn't stop. I'm sorry, she said, taking another strand of hair and twisting it between her slender fingers. You asked me to begin at the beginning, and I skipped to the end. It's just so hard. She took a deep breath and began again. It was last fall, just a few weeks after school began. I go to Harrison. I'm a junior this year. I guess you already know that. She let go of her hair and let her arm drop down, clasping her hands tightly in her lap. Well, I took this babysitting job, twice a week with this adorable little boy named Donnie. Donnie Hagen. Donnie had the most amazing white blonde hair you ever saw. He was so cute, and the two of us just hit it off right away. The Hagens lived in this creepy old house on the other side of town. It used to take me over half an hour to get there on the bus. Jenny paused. I guess that isn't a very important detail, but sometimes I think about all those long bus rides, that nearly empty bus bumping across town in the dark, taking me to that frightening old house. Well, anyway, after I'd been babysitting for Donnie for a short while, I started getting these really scary phone calls. I'd pick up the phone and hear this ugly whisper, and always the same words. Hi, babes. Are you all alone? Don't worry. Company's coming. Jenny shuddered. As she said the words, she heard the whispering voice once again in her ear, and felt the fear all over again. There had been all these attacks on babysitters all over town, she continued. I kept hearing about them on the news. And here I was, all alone in this frightening old house on the other side of town. I had this new boyfriend. I guess you'd call him a boyfriend. We really hadn't gone out all that much. He was new at Harrison. His name is Chuck Quinn. Jenny's features tightened into a frown. I'm not seeing Chuck anymore. He's a real joker. A class clown type. He's very funny, actually, but after what happened, I don't know. I guess I didn't feel much like laughing and joking all the time. So I told Chuck I didn't want to see him anymore. He was really upset. He got very angry. He has an angry, moody side, too, and... Oh, sorry. I'm getting away from my story. Her hands felt cold and clammy. She wiped them on her jeans. I started to let Chuck come to the Hagen's house when I was babysitting there. I just felt safer when he was there. I mean, because of the scary phone calls. But then I started getting the calls at my own home, always the same, Hi, babes. Company's coming. It was so frightening. I started thinking maybe it was Chuck who was making the calls. I guess I was just freaked or something, but I didn't know Chuck that well. And he was a joker, always clowning around and playing practical jokes. I was so scared. I wanted to quit my babysitting job, but Mom persuaded me to stay. We really needed the money, see? Mom is a legal secretary. She doesn't make a very big salary. The Hagans were paying me $5 an hour, and with Christmas coming up. So I stayed. And then one night, I found the newspaper clippings up in Mr. Hagan's closet. They were all clippings about children who had died because of babysitters' carelessness, and clippings about the attacks on babysitters that had been happening all over town. And the babysitters' names were all circled in red. It was Mr. Hagan. He was the one attacking the babysitters. Donnie had had a sister, and the sister had died, and Mr. Hagan blames the babysitter. I guess it destroyed his mind or something, made him crack up. And now he was out to get back at all babysitters. He was the one making the calls. He was the one. This is all so terrible. As I'm telling it to you, I'm seeing it all again. Jenny was clasping her hands together so tightly it hurt. Suddenly realizing it, she let go and forced her hands down to her sides. She waited a while, waited for her heart to stop pounding. She took the glass from the table beside her and sipped some water. Then she took a deep breath and, in a low, steady voice, resumed her story. Mr. Hagan came up behind me in his bedroom. He saw me reading his newspaper clippings. He knew that I knew. He said he was driving me home, but he didn't. It was very late. There were no other cars on the road. He drove to the old rock quarry. You know the one? About 10 miles north of town? He pulled me out of the car and hit me. "This is what you deserve," he kept saying. "This is what you deserve." He backed me up right to the edge of the quarry. It was so dark. I was standing right on the edge, nothing but air behind me. It was such a nightmare. The headlights from his car were shining in my eyes. I was blind. But I knew if I took one more step back, I'd go over to the bottom of the quarry. And then he pushed me. He rushed at me. He meant to push me, but somehow I dodged away from him, and he went flying over the edge. I didn't see him. I only heard him. That scream. That horrified scream. I heard him scream all the way down. Then I heard the cracking sound his body made when it hit the rocks below. Jenny paused, trying to catch her breath. I still hear that sound. Crack. Like an egg breaking. She was playing with her hair again, nervously braiding a strand of dark brown hair, still staring at the wall, but not seeing it, not seeing anything. "Of course I realized it wasn't my fault," she continued. He was crazy. He was trying to kill me. I know that. I can tell myself that over and over. But I still have this knowledge, this awful knowledge that I killed him, that I'm responsible for Mr. Hagan's death, that Donnie doesn't have a father because... Her mouth felt as dry as cotton. She stopped to take another sip of water. The water was warm and tasted of minerals. She made a face, but took a long drink. When Mr. Hagan fell over the quarry edge, it was all over. The nightmare, He was dead. No more attacks on babysitters. No more phone calls or threats. Donnie and his mother moved away. I don't know where. I was safe, but it wouldn't go away. I tried to force it all out of my mind. But then the dreams started, the nightmares, just about every night. They're so vivid, so real. I see them in color, I'm sure of it, and I remember them when I wake up in the morning, every detail. In most of them, I see Mr. Hagan. I see him crawling up to the top of the rock quarry. His face is all twisted, all distorted, and he's covered with blood. In the dreams, I'm standing there watching him as he pulls himself up to the top. Then he starts to stagger toward me, like Frankenstein, only covered with blood, his clothes all torn. Sometimes his skin is all torn too, and chunks of it are falling off his body. Sometimes he has a skull instead of a head, a bleeding skull, and I just stand there. I want to run away from him, but I can't. I'm paralyzed or something, and he comes closer and closer until I wake up screaming. Breathing hard, Jenny stared up at the tiled ceiling. "I think we better stop there," Dr. Schindler said softly. "This session is almost up. We'd better save your dreams for next time." He reached across his cluttered desk and clicked off the tape recorder. Narrowing his green eyes in concentration, he popped a cassette from the machine and began to label it with his pen. Dr. Schindler doesn't really look like a shrink, Jenny thought, turning her gaze on him. For one thing, he is too handsome, and too tanned, with his wavy coppery hair, those blonde eyebrows, and startling green eyes. She imagined him as an actor or maybe a model. And he looks too young to be a shrink, Jenny thought. Shouldn't he have a beard or something? Or wear thick rimless eyeglasses? Or smoke a pipe? He didn't look the part, but he had the diplomas to prove that he was the real thing. They were carefully lined up in rows on the wall behind his enormous mahogany desk. Next time, he started to say, flipping through his appointment book. But what about my problem right now? Jenny interrupted. She turned and pulled herself to a sitting position on the couch, dropping her feet to the floor. You know, about the babysitting job. The question seemed to catch him off guard. He's forgotten everything I said at the beginning of the hour, Jenny thought, groaning to herself. No wonder he has to tape everything. Well, Jenny, his eyes lowered and his face assumed a more serious expression. How do you feel about it? What do you think you should do about the job? Jenny sighed. Was he just going to ask questions? Wasn't he going to help her? I don't know, she said, biting her lower lip. Normally, I guess I'd have a real summer job now, but I was so upset and so tired from never being able to sleep much, I just didn't think I could manage a full-time job. She looked to him to reply, but he just stared back at her with those sparkling green eyes, his face completely expressionless. I need money for school in the fall, Jenny continued uncertainly, and the Wexners seem like really nice people. They only live a few blocks from my home, and their son Eli is 10, so he probably won't be that much trouble. How often do they want you to babysit for Eli? Dr. Schindler asked, fingering his silver and jade desk clock. 2 days a week and 2 nights, Jenny told him. It isn't too bad, and I really need the money, but... He stared at her, waiting for her to finish her sentence. I'm really frightened. Frightened of... he asked, leaning forward. Jenny thought for a while. I don't know, she replied, just frightened. Frightened that Mr. Hagen will come back? No, of course not, she said quickly, feeling her face flush. I know that's stupid. I don't know. Should I take the job? I really should, shouldn't I? She expected him to react, but his face remained expressionless. I hate to sound like a psychiatrist, he said softly, but what do you want to do? I want for it all to have never have happened, Jenny said with more emotion than she had planned. That would be good, Dr. Schindler said, finally smiling, but we can't go back in time. We can only go forward. He glanced at his desk clock. I think I should take the job, Jenny said, suddenly surprising herself by making a decision. Yes, I do. I think I should take it. There's no real reason not to. And I really need the money. And maybe it'll help me get over all the fear. You know, like getting back on a horse after you've fallen off. You've made a decision, Dr. Schindler said. He seemed pleased by it. Or was Jenny just guessing about his reaction? Yes, I guess I have, Jenny said, tossing her shoulder-length hair back, smoothing it with one hand. My problem is that I have this wild imagination. My mom, everyone, they're always telling me that my imagination runs away with me, and... Dr. Schindler startled her by standing up. He's so tall, Jenny thought. He's too tall to be a shrink. I'm sorry, he said, his eyes on the clock. He straightened his navy blue necktie. Perhaps we can talk about your imagination next week. I'll also want to hear how you're doing with your new job. Yes, okay, Jenny said, feeling foolish. Her time was up, and here she was dithering on about her wild imagination. Well, he doesn't have to be such a clock watcher, does he? She asked herself. Is keeping to his schedule all he cares about? Would you like me to prescribe some sleeping pills? Dr. Schindler asked, walking her to the door. Will they stop the bad dreams? Jenny asked hopefully. I'm afraid not, he said without smiling, one large hand gently on the shoulder of her t-shirt. Well, then, I don't think so, Jenny said. Okay, but feel free to call me any time if you like a prescription, he said. Please see Miss Gurney on the way out. As Jenny pulled open the door, revealing Miss Gurney, the receptionist, seated at the desk in the tiny waiting room, Dr. Schindler quickly removed his hand from her shoulder. Jenny started to say goodbye, but he had already returned to his desk. She crossed the small room with its 4 brown leather chairs and stepped up to Miss Gurney's low desk in front of a wall of gray filing cabinets. Miss Gurney was a plump, middle-aged woman with gray-streaked black hair tied tightly behind her head in a bun. She was dressed in a gray skirt and a white high-necked blouse, very conservative-looking, except for her eyeglasses, which had bright red plastic frames dotted with rhinestones. She finished writing a long entry in a logbook of some sort, then looked up at Jenny. What a pretty t-shirt, she said in a surprisingly husky voice, looking Jenny up and down through the bizarre eyeglasses. What do you call the way the colors all run together? It's, tie-dyed, Jenny told her, looking down at her shirt to remind herself what she was wearing. Her mind was still swirling from all that she had just relived in Dr. Schindler's office. "Very pretty," Miss Gurney muttered, searching her desk for something. She found the pad she was looking for and wrote something on it, scribbling quickly in jagged, bold letters. "This is just a reminder of your next session," she said. She tore off the note and started to hand it to Jenny, but then sneezed loudly. "Gesundheit," Jenny said. "Lots of germs around here," Miss Gurney said, reaching into her desk drawer for a tissue. She handed Jenny the note. "See you next week," Jenny said. Clutching the note in her hand, she stepped out of the office, down the hall, and out the front. She had expected to see bright sunshine. It was 4 in the afternoon, but the sky was evening dark. Puddles on the sidewalk indicated that it had rained while Jenny was in the doctor's office. "I wish I had driven here," Jenny thought, looking up at the dark sky. "Too bad Mom needed the car. It's going to start raining again any second." "Oh well," she said aloud. She turned and, chilled by the cool, wet air, began walking quickly down Wooster Hill. Dr. Schindler's office was located in a low office building at the top of the hill, surrounded by other office buildings and a few old residence hotels. The bus stop was at the bottom of the hill, 4 blocks down. It began to drizzle, a cold drizzle for June. Being careful not to step into the deeper puddles, Jenny hurried down the hill. The sky turned even darker. It was as black as night now. A cold wind seemed to follow her down the hill. Her sneakers splashed against the wet concrete sidewalk. "Where is everyone?" she asked herself, looking around at the deserted street. "Guess everyone else has the good sense to stay out of this cold rain." She was in the middle of the 3rd block, shivering from the cold, her hair wet, her t-shirt soaked through, when she heard the footsteps behind her. Suddenly frightened, she turned back to see who it was. No one there. Strange. She started walking down the hill again, taking longer strides. "Come on, Jenny. Don't start thinking things. Don't let your imagination start running away with you." The rain came down harder. She heard the footsteps again. They were hurrying too, keeping pace with her. A familiar fear gripped her chest. "I'm being followed," she realized. Chapter 2. Without looking back, Jenny started to run. "Hey," a voice called angrily. Whoever it was started to run too. The steady rain continued to fall, whipped by sudden cold gusts of wind. The sidewalk dipped steeply, following the hill down to the bottom. Jenny's sneakers slid and slipped as she ran, jumping over puddles now. A car turned up the hill from Oakland Avenue, its headlights on despite the early hour. The double lights caught Jenny, as if in a spotlight, and she shielded her eyes from the shock of the brightness. And a hand grabbed her shoulder roughly. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. "Jenny, what's the matter?" She spun out of the grasp, turned to face him, breathing hard. "Chuck!" "Hey, why'd you run? Didn't you hear me calling you?" His expression was serious, concerned. He didn't have his usual goofy Huck Finn grin. His curly blonde hair was matted down on his head from the rain. Water ran down his freckled cheeks. He was wearing a faded Bart Simpson t-shirt over jean cutoffs. His white Nikes were mud-stained and soaked. "Chuck, what are you doing here?" "Getting wet," he said. He never could resist making a joke. You really scared me," Jenny said angrily, her heart still pounding. "I didn't mean to," he said. "Why'd you run like that?" I thought you were someone else," she said, thinking hard to come up with an answer. Why had she run like that? It seemed pretty silly now. And not so silly. So many things frightened her now. And so many things reminded her of other things. "I am someone else," Chuck cracked. "That's why I was running. I was running for myself." "Well, maybe you should keep on running," Jenny said coldly. She hadn't meant it to come out as harsh as it did. Chuck gave her his hurt little boy expression. The dimple in his right cheek appeared, the dimple she used to be so crazy about. Now she didn't feel anything. He's so big, she realized. He's built like a wrestler. Did I ever notice how wide he is, how powerful he looks? "Chuck, it's raining. I've got to get to the bus," she said impatiently. "Your mom said I'd find you up here on Wooster Hill," he said, ignoring her impatience. And then he added meaningfully, "Your mom still likes me." "Then why don't you go pester her?" Jenny snapped. She turned and crossed Oakland Avenue against the light. He hurried to keep up with her. "Aw, come on, Jen." She kept walking, taking long strides. The bus stop was on the next corner. The street sparkled from the rain, all reds and purples. Suddenly, nothing looked real. The colors were all wrong. The sky was an eerie chartreuse. The street was a glowing purple. Everything seemed to be so wet, so shiny. I'm walking in a dream, Jenny thought. Chuck grabbed her arm again, gentler this time, bringing her back to reality. She turned around, not quite sure why she felt as angry as she did. Chuck, what do you want? She cried, pronouncing each word slowly and distinctly, her voice hard and shrill. I just wanted to talk with you, he said, his eyes searching her face for some warmth. I don't think we ever really talked after. His voice trailed off. We talked and talked and talked, Jenny said wearily. Half a block to get to the bus stop. The hill began to level off as it met Hunter Street. Beside her, just beyond the sidewalk, rainwater poured down the curb, a steady downhill river. I don't want to talk anymore, Chuck. I said everything I had to say. I don't want you following me anymore. I don't want you waiting for me, jumping out at me wherever I go. The words seemed to pour out of her like the water rushing down the hill. She suddenly felt flooded with emotion, angry and sad at the same time. But, Jenny, Chuck said, refusing to let go of her arm, I don't want to lose you. Having said this, he let go of her and looked away. He can't stand being this open, this vulnerable, Jenny thought. He makes jokes all the time, usually to cover up his true feelings, but here he is, letting me know how he really feels. If only I had some feeling for him. She stared at his face, so open, so fair and blue-eyed, so hurt. She didn't want to hurt him. She felt a sudden pang, a sudden urge to say, Okay, Chuck, let's go talk. Let's go back to the way things were. But she knew that wasn't her true feeling. She knew she could never do that. I'm not the same person, she said flatly, wiping rainwater off her forehead with her hand. But, Jenny, he pleaded, so much happened to me, Chuck. I'm just not the same person. It's not your fault. Really, it's all me. I know that. It's all my fault. But you've just got to accept it. I can't accept it, he shouted. His sudden anger startled her. She stepped back into a deep, cold puddle. The water went over her sneaker, covered her white sock. I won't accept it, he shouted. Jenny tried to concentrate on him, tried to figure out what to say to him, to make him realize once and for all that it was over between them. But the shimmering colors distracted her, the oddness of it all. The green sky didn't look like afternoon or evening. The sparkling, slick streets, the glowing patches of blue grass beyond the sidewalk, the two white circles of light that approached so quickly. It was all out of focus now, all shimmering together, and it took Jenny so long to realize that the two approaching lights, so white now, so bright, so close, were actually the twin headlights of the crosstown bus she'd been waiting for. It took her so long to make them seem real, she almost missed the bus. But just before the driver gave up and reached to push the button to close the double doors, she leaped onto the step and pulled herself inside. She could hear Chuck yelling angrily behind her, pleading with her to stay. And as the doors closed with a soft whoosh and the bus strained away from the curb, its windshield wipers scraping across the rain-dotted glass, arcing to a steady clicking rhythm, Jenny heard him threatening her and cursing. Poor Chuck. But she was being pulled away from him now, pulled away from his angry words, pulled as if in a dream, away, away, away. I'm free, she thought, seeing Chuck grow smaller and smaller in the rear window of the bus. I'm free. Hey, it's not free. The husky voice brought Jenny back to earth. What? The bus. It's not free, the driver barked. You gonna pay? Oh, right. Sorry. Jenny searched her pockets for change. I shouldn't have come here, Jenny told herself. The sky was flat and starless, no moon, no clouds. The blackness was solid and deep. I shouldn't have come here. She stood on the hard ground, staring into the darkness, staring ahead to the bottomless pit that stood only a few feet in front of her, stretching out in both directions. The rock quarry. What brought her back here, back to the scene of all the horror? What forces drove her to face it again? What did she hope to see this time? Jenny, Jenny, said a voice inside her, you can't lose memories by chasing after them. What a mysterious thing to say. The darkness turned even darker, but she knew the treacherous hole was there. She knew she was standing near the edge, so near the edge she could almost feel the emptiness, almost feel the sheer drop of it. I shouldn't have come here. You can't lose memories by chasing after them. What did it mean? She had no time to figure it out. Even in the darkness, she could see the two hands shoot up from the top of the quarry edge. Even in the darkness, she could see them grasp onto the rock. Two hands from the pit. 2 hands from down below. Spattered with blood, they dug into the hard rock. The man's head appeared next. The hands pushed, the arms strained. The head seemed to rise up like a pulpy, blood-stained moon, like a dark-eyed, lopsided moon rising over a canyon. Mr. Hagen, no! He pulled himself up out of the hole and onto his knees. Part of the flesh of his face had been torn away, revealing curved bone under his cheeks. The rest of his flesh hung loosely about his fixed grin. His eyes never left hers. Mr. Hagen, no! He laughed. The sound was nothing but wind, dry, dry wind, the sound of ashes. He staggered toward her, his arms outstretched, bone protruding from the elbow of one arm. Mr. Hagen, it wasn't my fault. Even though her voice was coming from her own mouth, it sounded far away. She tried to run. Her legs wouldn't move. She couldn't even turn away from him, couldn't even look at him. Mr. Hagen, please! And she started to scream. She opened her mouth, her eyes wide open, and screamed, Jenny, Jenny, please, Jenny, Jenny! He was holding her. He had his broken arm around her. He brought his face-torn flesh close. No! Jenny, Jenny, wake up! It was her mother who was holding on so tightly. The dream, the horror of the dream, faded slowly. Mom? Jenny, Jenny, wake up. You were dreaming again. What? It was just a dream, Jenny. Another nightmare, Mrs. Jeffers whispered. The room came into focus. The blue lamp on the dresser, the curtains fluttering softly at her window. Her mother looking so much older all of a sudden. Her mother looking so worried, so frightened. I'm sorry, Mom, Jenny said, her voice tiny, still filled with sleep. It was the same dream. I had it again. Jenny, Jenny, her mother whispered soothingly, her arm still tightly wrapped around Jenny's shoulders. It was so real, Jenny said. But it wasn't real, Mrs. Jeffers told her. It seemed as if I were really there, standing there again. Jenny, Jenny, her mother repeated. It wasn't real. Believe me, child. Nothing like that will ever happen to you again.